Today, it will be a very different sort of arrangement in which we as the federal government would be saying less and listening more to the perspectives from the federal member states, the districts, and those that are in close proximity with the populations that we often serve and design programs for at the federal level. I personally had the privilege of going to Jowhar not that long ago for a different project, perhaps one of the biggest projects that the Somali government in partnership with its partners is carrying out, funded by our donors, about $170 million project, the Jowhar Upstream Water Project, which would have, when it's fully implemented, a very tangible ripple effect on different dimensions of the economy, the livelihoods of the people, and their very existence. During that period, I traveled to about 20-some kilometers outside Jowhar to go to the very location where the canal gets off from the river. And as we commuted along with President Ali Goodlawe, I could see the realities on the ground. Farms being harvested, livestock being reared, people trying to fetch water despite being close to the river on some of the other localities, the levels of poverty, a sense of hope and recovery. So it is a manifestation of the true realities of both challenges and opportunities in Somalia. I have had good conversations with the President and his ministers and the public at large. So today's forum has been preceded by a very proactive and interactive engagement between the federal member states and the federal line minister. So in yesterday's meetings, when we had all the counterparts sitting across one another, the Minister of Education of the federal government on one side, and the Minister of Education of the federal member state of Hirshabelle on the other side, Ministries of Health, National Security, Water, Justice, Defense, SODMA, and the Special Envoy all on one side, where we could cross-check and examine the accuracy of the needs, what has been done, and the plans in place. To my surprise, actually that was one of the most useful exercises we carried out in our recent engagements. And both the line ministries of different levels agreed on the good work that has been done through stabilization and other programs. So the delivery of services does not only happen within the stabilization framework, but the fact that even programs such as Damal Afimad, which is carried out by the Ministry of Health, are making inroads into the newly recovered areas. Over about 100 health posts, MCHs, and health centers are planned for Hirshabelle and the two regions of Hiran and Shabelle. That sort of planning was not a possible idea 2 years ago. For the hundreds of thousands of Somalis living under Alshabaab, they would have been outside the scope of these programs had we not initiated the liberation agenda. So the gains in the security front are immediately having a domino effect, a positive one, on the health sector, health delivery, educational services, humanitarian assistance. So I would like to reiterate the fact that a very healthy and engaging intergovernmental relations is a necessary prerequisite for policy outcomes. That's one observation we made. As we also acknowledge that a good relationship between the implementation partners, the donors, and the government institutions is also another necessary prerequisite. I would allow for the President and others from his region to tell us about their findings. In our last normal stabilization meeting, I took note of the fact that the president's trip to about 22 population centers and the sheer magnitude of the people that came out, bringing to stand still all their other aspects of life, gravitating towards the state institutions and the president and his delegation, where each ministry sat down with the people, the sort of needs they articulated, shows that there is indeed a clarity on the side of the local communities as where life would be better. They have abandoned the ways of life of Alshabaab that used to hold them by sheer dominance, and they have gravitated towards the state institutions, which means we are not having the luxury that we used to have before, where the demand for public service was very limited. Now, there is much more demand on the district commissioners, local governments, on the federal member states, and on the federal government to continuously deliver. We sat in this federal room on various occasions where we deliberated about the policing needs, the justice requirements, because one of the key competence areas that Al-Shabaab has often tried to dominate was the provision of justice, albeit by unjust means. In other words, they could enforce peace by just killing people. But for us, we have to bring about peace and make peace through legitimacy, because we cannot utilize the sort of inhumane techniques that they use, as they are not bound by the rule of law. So Minister Ali Goodlawe would talk about the different requirements of the communities, but all of a sudden Hirshabelle needs a very huge, for instance, prison facilities, so that people who commit crime are arrested and they go through the judiciary system and they go through the whole chain of justice, unlike the previous era. It's a new requirement. We have come to appreciate the input from humanitarian actors like SODMA and their partners, social delivery units like health and education, but increasingly core governance functions such as policing, justice, local governments are coming out as hot areas that need our attention. Let me not dwell on the discussions we have on an everyday basis. I'm sure people are more interested in hearing what the president has to say from a first-hand experience on behalf of the people that he met. So we all would keenly listen to his findings, observations, opportunities and challenges, and we hope that at the federal level and our partner level, our programs would speak to and respond to the needs and the requirements that the local populations have presented to the president.
Wararka, warbixinada, waraysyada iyo falanqaynta Kaab Somali TV waxaad kala socon kartaa baraheena bulshada Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube ama ku soo biir barteena Telegram ee Kaab Somali TV. Haddii aad hayso talo ama tusaale ama aad doonayso inaad nala wadaagto aragtidaada, waxaad inoogu soo diri kartaa WhatsApp lambarka shaashada kaaga muuqda ama emailka info@kaabtv.com. sidoo kale si fudud u booqo kadibna rukumo website-keena www.kaabtv.com si aad ula socoto warbixinada Soomaali iyo English labaduba. Kaab TV waa kaabaha bulshadeena.